Hi, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
Ah, so am I. Just kidding. I'm John.
We are going to watch today patron video request time. You see, on our Patreon, we do TV show reactions and Q&As. And today is a patron video request that comes from a man named Cameron French. This one is another top 10 movie production nightmares. See, we did top 10 movie production nightmares, and we're doing another one. And Cameron French was one of our most interesting patrons for a while, because the longest time we would never really hear from him. He might shoot a request here or there. I would always try to get info on the guy for months. Lately, we've actually been messaging each other, and I finally get to know the guy a little bit. He's 24 years old. He lives somewhere in the world, and he's a big wrestling fan. And I found out he's a big fan of channels like the Schmoes Know, the Chris Stuckman, the Jeremy Johns, the Movie Couple. Our show, of course, Botchamania, because he's a wrestling fan. And one of his reward tiers was that he would get a thank you letter written by us that we would just write front page, back page. It would have been great. But he said no thank you to that, because he knows we're pervs, that we would stalk him like crazy. So good call on your end, Cameron. Good call.
We show up unannounced to everybody, so...
Anyway, let's watch your fun little video here from Watch Mojo, the greatest list video channel of all time.
Love watching Mojo.
Mojo, baby.
It's a miracle these movies got made.
I mean, it's just, you don't fire a director unless he's really done some horrible thing.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for
true.
another top
Sometimes
10
they try to make a
production
unique Star
nightmares.
Wars movie.
Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're considering everything from a director's penchant for perfectionism to overbearing studios to inclement weather as reasons for disastrous productions.
Ours done.
That was an easy movie to shoot.
If you don't see a title famous for its mishaps on this list, check out our other list of movie production nightmares.
Because they've got them all.
Walk around and rip your lights down in the middle of a scene?
Those are Christmas lights. I put them up to make everyment happy.
Number 10, American Graffiti.
Really? It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
You guys gonna have a little bash before you leave?
Told over the course of a single night, this classic high school drama/comedy follows a group of teenagers on their last hurrah of summer vacation.
But that can't be your car. It must be your mama's car.
However, the shenanigans were not limited to the film itself.
Whoa!
Development hit numerous snags along the way. In true 70s fashion, one of the members of the crew was arrested for growing marijuana. According to unspecified sources, actors Harrison Ford, Bo Hopkins, and Paul Le Mat were allegedly drunk almost every evening, which would account for Ford getting kicked out of his motel. At another point, someone set fire to George Lucas's motel room.
What?
Get bent, turkey.
This is already better than the last one.
Number 9, Troy.
Imagine a king who fights his own battles. Wouldn't that be a sight?
It seems Wolfgang Petersen's interpretation of Homer's epic poem angered the gods because it braved lackluster reviews by critics as well as its fair share of hardships while being made.
You know what's there? Waiting. Beyond that beach. Immortality!
In a twist of irony,
accent.
Brad Pitt, who played the legendary Achilles, actually tore his Achilles tendon while filming. Then a hurricane laid waste to the wall of Troy set, right as they were intending to shoot scenes in front of it. Filmmakers had no choice but to rebuild the entire thing.
Wow!
Several security guards were detained for stealing from set, claiming that their paychecks had been halted after the hurricane.
And Brad Pitt was growing marijuana on set.
There it is back there.
Number 8, Blade Runner.
Dude, Harrison Ford just shouldn't be in
He
movies.
was drunk every night, yeah.
Hailed as one of the finest sci-fi movies ever made, this masterpiece was based on Philip K. Dick's novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? The film went through various screenplays and directors before Ridley Scott finally got on board, but the trouble
made
was
3
far
versions.
from over.
It's fair to say that Harrison and I were nearly always quarreling.
Both star Harrison Ford and Scott
Yeah.
admit to a rather contentious relationship during production, but the actor wasn't the only one with qualms. Because of how hands-on Scott was, he found himself at odds with the crew, who even started a t-shirt war by donning shirts saying, "Yes, Governor, my ass," wanting to voice their displeasure with the English director's approach.
Wow.
Moments will be lost in time.
Number 7, The Conqueror.
I share your taste in women, Target Type.
This flop was controversial because in it, Western legend John Wayne, an Iowa native, played Mongolian Emperor Genghis Khan. The movie had more bad press as a result of its shoots near a nuclear test site. After the government stated that everything was fine, the production carried on.
I'm Genghis
But it became
Khan.
clear when cast and crew members eventually developed cancer that it
Whoa, what?
While I have fingers to grasp a sword and eyes to see, your treacherous head is not safe on your shoulders.
46
cancer.
people, including director John Powell, actress Susan Hayward, and even John Wayne himself, all died of cancer in the following years.
Wow.
Actor Pedro Armendariz committed suicide after being diagnosed with terminal cancer, and actress Agnes Moorehead reportedly said shortly before her death that she should have never taken her role.
You return empty-handed from the chase, my son?
Number 6, Fantastic
Damn.
Four, aka
What?
Fantastic.
This movie?
Always so smart.
It's a great movie.
Thinking you were smarter than
I
me.
mean, the first half
This
is whatever,
superhero
but the
flick
last
was a
half.
Yeah, the last
fantastic
half's when it really
failure,
comes to
but
life.
it was doomed from the beginning. Director Josh Trank was extremely promising, but several reports started to come out claiming he bullied Kate Mara during filmmaking.
What?
I'm not going to be a tool.
You're not as
Trank's
talented as your sister.
confrontational attitude affected his relationship with both the studio and his cast,
Damn.
and 20th Century Fox did not like his take on the film.
Please don't blow up.
Producers ended up
Ha.
entirely rewriting Trank's ending, but needed stand-ins for shooting since the actors were all busy with other projects. Trank tweeted his displeasure with the released version of the film, and it's thought he hurt his reputation so much that he lost his job doing a Star Wars movie as a result.
If this world must die, so
Really?
that mine may
I
live,
didn't know he was supposed to do one.
so be it.
Number 5, Heaven's Gate.
It's getting dangerous to be poor in this country. Isn't it?
From the director who brought us The Deer Hunter came the sprawling western taking place in 1890s Wyoming, and it kinda sucked. Since Michael Cimino had impressed everyone with his 5 Oscar-winning film,
Whoa.
he was given complete creative
Hat is
freedom.
bigger than his head.
It's beautiful. Belongs in the museum.
A stickler for authenticity, Cimino had many of his sets destroyed and rebuilt, costing the studio millions of dollars. What's more, the production was accused of cruelty to animals. Cimino's career
no
was all
way.
but destroyed following this disastrous development
No
process,
way.
turning him into another of Hollywood's many one-hit wonders. The ordeal also meant that studios started to exercise more control over directors. Way to ruin it for everyone.
If we fail, the flag of the United States fails.
Number 4, Alien 3.
We give you thanks, O Lord. Your wrath has come and the time is near for us to be judged.
After escaping the Sulaco, Ripley crashes on a maximum security prison planet, but soon realizes she didn't come alone. Multiple directors were attached to this movie before newcomer David Fincher was brought on. The script had already gone through multiple rewrites, and changes were still being made during shooting.
Telling you I want to die.
We got a deal! Remember? It dies first, then you!
Fincher arrived to a crippled budget
Out of
and a
context,
set
that's
designed
really
for
goofy.
an entirely
Yeah.
different story involving a wooden planet populated by monks. With no time to pick up the pieces, and execs breathing down his neck to make the release date, Fincher ultimately disowned this installment of the Alien quadrilogy.
That's a bit uncharitable.
He's also got like the most signature
Number
shot
3,
of the whole
The
franchise.
Shining.
Here's Johnny!
This tale of supernatural possession is regarded as one of the most celebrated horror movies in cinema, but its actors barely made it out in one piece. Stanley Kubrick was a notoriously difficult director to work with, making changes to the script daily and demanding repetitive takes.
Give me the bat.
Give me the bat, Marge.
Give me the bat.
The scene wherein Wendy backs up the stairs swinging a baseball bat reportedly required 127 takes, and holds the Guinness record for the most takes of a single scene with dialogue. However, members of the crew contest this statement, saying it was actually around 35 to 45. Either way,
That's not
both lead
excessive.
actors consider their roles the hardest
Much
of
better.
their careers, with Shelley Duvall even suffering from hair loss due to stress.
Get the dummy.
Number 2, The Revenant.
My head was that boy.
Oh.
He took him from me.
This beautifully shot film chronicles a frontiersman's tale of survival. Director Alejandro Iñárritu wanted to shoot on location in Alberta, Canada, to properly convey the sheer desperation of the characters dealing with their environment. However, Alberta was hit with record high temperatures that year, melting most of the snow. Production was ultimately moved to Argentina to complete filming in a suitable environment.
Argentina, damn.
Several production members either got fired
This is a
or
great
quit
movie.
as a result of how challenging filming was. But the actors didn't have it any easier. Leonardo DiCaprio recalled the challenges he faced, including braving frozen rivers, sleeping in dead animals, and risking hypothermia.
Real dead
But
animals?
at least he finally got his Oscar, right?
I thought for a second he said, it said it.
Before we get to our top pick.
Movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'll prove it. I'll die
Number
right
one,
now.
The Abyss.
Oh wow,
Well, hell,
one
some
honorable
of it
mention.
did run down to us.
Yeah, there were
Some
no
of it
more
cool
bad
shit.
productions.
James Cameron's underwater sci-fi extravaganza, following a deep-sea drilling crew that stumbles across an aquatic alien
Titanic
species,
was pretty
did hit some rough
chaotic
waters.
too.
In order to shoot the film, multiple tanks were made, needing a combined 10 million gallons of water to fill,
Wow.
with plastic beads used to cut out light and simulate the extreme depths.
We used beads instead of something laying in the water because of the safety factor. We had to be able to surface at any moment if we had a problem, especially diving with actors.
To achieve Cameron's vision, the production team and actors had to brave 70-hour work weeks and often risked their lives since underwater films were new territory.
Look, this is not an option, so just forget about it, all right?
Several members of the cast, including stars Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, experienced emotional breakdowns due to exhaustion.
Wow.
Traumatized by the whole ordeal, Harris
Thanks for
actually
what?
refused to talk about the movie for years.
Fight! 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 Right now!
Do you agree with our picks?
Yeah,
Check
watch
out
that
these
movie.
other great clips from Watch Mojo and subscribe for new
I've
videos
seen it, I
every
just
day.
don't remember it at all.
I don't know what they're talking about. Those seem like a walk in the park.
A walk in
the park.
American Graffiti is one of my all-time favorite movies. I know a lot of people don't know that. That's one of my all-time favorites, and I had no idea about any of those productions, man. That's some funny ass shit. I'm pretty surprised that with the kind of behavior Harrison Ford displayed on set, if that is to be true, that he was drunk almost every night, that he would immediately cast him in Star Wars.
Yeah. Maybe he just like, you just have so much of it that I can't not cast.
Yeah. Guy growing marijuana on set, that wouldn't be a problem now. It depends where you're shooting, but most likely it wouldn't be a problem. We'd be okay with that.
No, nowadays it's just gonna be like, I hope you grew enough for everybody. We're gonna need to chill at the end of the. I'm just surprised somebody tried to burn down his hotel room or something. Like, I'm like, who hates George Lucas and that crew?
I don't know, man. That's pretty crazy stuff. But hey, they turned out a great movie. My favorite ones are the ones where movies are actually great, and then you find out that there's some terrible stuff that happened to it. That stuff with Troy, they had that opening line about it seemed like the gods were against him or some funny shit like that, right? And then you hear what happened, and you're like, maybe the gods were against these guys.
When it's that uncanny shit where it's like he tore his Achilles tendon, I'm like, well, that's
ironic.
Yeah, like what are the odds of that?
Yeah,
Achilles.
Or they're about to shoot on this like giant set, then they have to rebuild the whole thing.
Friggin' hurricane. Ugh.
It's one of those weird cases where you're like, I'll hate CGI, but then I'll hear about stuff like this, and I'll be like, CGI makes so much sense.
I get why you made that choice.
Yeah, especially when you hear of shit like this happening. That's just so unfortunate, man.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt everybody's soul after that.
I think I'm in the minority here. I enjoy the movie Troy.
Troy, like
quite a bit.
Have you seen the director's cut? Because the director's cut is widely regarded as being like the good movie version of that film. Like, it's a marked improvement.
I don't even enjoy that movie on a level of it's so bad it's good or it's entertainingly bad.
Yeah. I just like that.
I like that movie.
It's got its charms for sure.
I think the fight scenes are really cool too.
Yeah.
Like that fight that they always show with Eric Bana and Brad Pitt going at it. I mean, Brad Pitt does a terrible accent. Orlando Bloom's very annoying in the film.
Yes.
Besides those factors, and no, I have not seen the awesome director's cut. I still enjoy the movie, so kudos to them for pulling this bad boy off.
Yeah.
Like I like Brian Cox, I like Eric Bana. I think they're really good in the film. Blade Runner, I heard on Blade Runner 2049, because Ridley Scott was an active producer on that film, and he was on set for a lot of that film, that even then him and Harrison Ford were not getting along with each other. Like so many years later, they just don't click with one another, man. They just don't click.
But what was the key factor that stopped, Ridley from bringing him right back for the next movie?
Yeah. I find that dynamic interesting because Ridley Scott's a director where oftentimes you'll see him bring back actors from previous films, which is usually a sign that they got along pretty. I mean, you occasionally hear of a case where they don't get along, but they still bring them for a different movie because they know they're the right person to put in that role. But specifically Ridley Scott, I mean, the whole crew turning against him. I know this was a very troubled film.
Yeah.
The fact that there's 3 cuts of this movie from the same guy shows you it was probably a troubled production.
Yeah, that's an odd leadership choice to be like, no, I gotta get the movie right again.
Yeah.
I gotta get it right again. This time it's the right one. It's like, do you really know what your vision is?
Yeah, and he's pretty vocal about it too, about how the crew felt about him, how Harrison felt about him. He doesn't shy away from that, but he, like, him and Russell Crowe are like best buds, and when I think of like Russell Crowe and Harrison Ford, I'm like, wouldn't Russell Crowe be the one who's most likely to be the hardest one to work with? Well, they work together on so many projects.
Russell Crowe seems like more like Harrison Ford seems like he might be a squeaky wheel, but in a laid back kind of way. Whereas like Russell Crowe seems like he could be more up tempo about that. Yeah. I mean, he's got that reputation throwing phones and stuff. Like you gotta imagine that's more volatile at the very least.
But you rarely hear Ridley Scott. I mean, he makes like 1 to 2 movies a year, so you rarely hear of him getting. He reshot all the money in the world in like a day. And
yeah. Add that Christopher Plummer in there. Let's do it.
What's this one called? The Genghis Khan one? I have not seen it, but I like watching any movies. Or what's the one where Charlton Heston plays a Mexican?
Oh, I don't remember.
That's
from Spain.
Orson
He's
Welles
like from
shot
Spain.
that.
Yeah.
No, he's Mexican in that.
He's straight up Mexican. Damn.
I remember.
Oh no, Sean Connery played a Spaniard.
Yeah.
I am Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez.
I like that. I like watching it just because I never can see past it. I just can't. No matter how long I'm watching that movie for, I'm like, you're not even trying to come across
every single scene. You're just gonna be sitting there going, "It's John Wayne, the whitest guy you know." Like,
I'm a Mongolian conqueror.
Yeah. Hey man, if Mickey Rooney can do it, so can John Wayne.
I've heard terrible things about Josh Trank on this set. I heard he was drunk all the time.
Every evening, and he set George Lucas's hotel room on fire. Yeah, man, this was one of those fascinating ones where I was like, I don't know whose story is right, but it seems like no matter whose story you're listening to, this was an ugly set to be on.
I think out of all the movies on this list, this is the one where it's most present.
Yeah.
You can just see that there's a troubled production when you watch this movie.
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
It's just the tone.
It's so on screen. Like, if I had never heard it and then I watched this film, I would go, something went wrong.
What happened?
This
took the
wasn't
wheel?
the script. There's something went wrong with the studios and Josh Trank clashing or something. Nowadays, it's easier than ever when you could feel there's a clash between creatives and the studio heads.
Mm-hmm. Well, and now it's so highly publicized, and now people I feel like this was probably a transitional moment in that phenomenon, because now the barrier, the transparency is that much more thin, but then you also have a certain amount of like, who's just damage controlling? Like you look at a Suicide Squad, and David Ayer is pretty diplomatic about that, and you're like, are you just learning from these mistakes, or, I
love Josh Trank's tweet, though, about how his movie would have been great.
I wonder.
I mean, he can say that because no
we'll
one
never
will
ever see it. Yeah, so now it's just whatever you're thinking of.
Was he just trying to save his own ass from all these things?
That's the thing. Is he done now?
He'll be back. Him and Max Landis made Chronicle.
Yeah, that dynamic duo is going to be back with a new movie anytime now. Just you wait. When people get a hankering for Chronicle 2.
They've been wanting it. It's never going to happen. Heaven's Gate, I've talked about on this channel before. I don't really feel like covering it again. Alien 3, this is another movie. It is nowhere near on the level of the first 2 Aliens. Nowhere near.
It's way above.
But I don't think it is anywhere near as terrible as people have made it out to be. I think there's plenty of cool things and nifty ideas in here that are worth exploring. And it has one of the most famous shots out of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
People always associate this as the downfall of the Alien franchise. And yeah, there's an argument to be made there because its quality is nowhere near on par. But I think there's still some great cinematography in this film. You still get some of those cool visuals that David Fincher is known to work with his cinematographer on. That famous shot of just the alien who just got out of the shower.
Yes. I love the alien drool because the alien drool doesn't just come out of their mouth. It also comes like down over their face.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere on that shot. Yeah.
They're always drooling from everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the scene with, what's the robot's name? Not David. Whatever. The robot's name in it where he's like, she puts him back together and she has a whole scene with it.
Oh, is it Henriksen? Is it his robot? Is it his? I can't remember.
Jim Henson.
Jim Henson. Babies.
But that movie overall, I enjoyed it. And I like the ending to it as well. Have you seen it?
You know, I've seen disparate clippets of it, but no, I haven't seen Alien 3 or 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, at least as an outsider's perspective, I kind of view this as not the downfall of the Alien franchise, but just its failure to achieve true classic status with a perfect number 3.
Yeah.
You know?
We've talked about The Shining so many times.
The Revenant, I feel like, is just a documentary about how hard it was to make this movie. I feel like it's all there on screen.
It is all there on screen, but all those problems work so well for the movie. That's the ironic part about that film is the stresses that Shelley Duvall went through for The Shining work for that movie because of the performance it gave. No one ever should be pushed to that limit, but
since we have that
film with that performance and those real life struggles she had making that movie, that performance is great. But everyone talks about Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
But The Revenant, same thing, man. It's such a physically demanding role what DiCaprio does there. And, like, I'm kind of back and forth. I don't know what... People say, like, he ate a real bison liver. Like, did he?
Or did he just eat some kind of, safe gelatin?
I mean, did he hide in... People say, like, he hid in real dead animals. I've read reports that say he didn't really do that. So I'm like, that'd be a little ridiculous. Like, we killed a horse for you to really climb into. It's a little fucking insane to me.
There's a slaughterhouse just nearby. They're done with this one. They're shipping it over.
You might as well say that CGI bear attack was real.
Yeah, I always wonder. And hey, they can make animal carcasses in an effects house pretty easily, so I wouldn't be surprised. But the Revenant's one of those movies where I feel like if it was an easy production, probably wouldn't have anywhere near the status it achieved.
The Abyss, I've heard, I mean, Titanic has like pretty horrible stories. I don't remember if the first one of this covered Titanic. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But Titanic was a very crazy production. And the thing that preceded it, Abyss, yeah, I heard that was a troubled production. I didn't know about Ed Harris's trauma on it, though.
I had heard he had, like, some kind of breakdown, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about him, like, refusing to talk about the film.
It was news to me.
I mean, James Cameron just is, he's that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just James Cameron, though.
Have a breakdown for me.
James Cameron is known to be a hard guy to work with, but
don't push it.
He delivers great films. So what do you want? What do you want?
You want to be comfortable, or do you want to make some art?
Yeah, that makes a lot of freaking money.
Yeah, lucrative creativity.
I think The Abyss was like a little bit of a disappointment at the box office out of all his films. Well, this is a fun list, guys. I mean, it's from March 21st, 2017. You could honestly do one of these every 6 to 8 months and you'd have more movies. I mean, World War Z was an honorable mention, but I'm like, maybe you put that on your next list. Gosh, Justice League could easily be on there. Solo, Star Wars story. There's so many, like, it's so reported now that these lists will be even easier for you to put together in the future.
Yup.
Anyway, guys, you guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell. Check us out on Patreon, TV show reactions, Q&As. John does music video coverage. And thanks again, Cameron French, for the recommendation, buddy. Bye.